What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Hear the Spear, presented to you by NoleGameday.com. We're here live on a wonderful, fantastic Thursday evening. VZ's Vikings play this evening as well. We got some sleeper picks to make later on in this episode, so I will imagine that we will make some smart picks for that one. But we're going to talk about Mike Norvell and his presser that he had yesterday morning. Dustin was in attendance for that. We're going to talk about Tony White's comments, Gus Malzahn as well. And we're also going to dive into what we think Florida State's game plan is moving forward. What's the actual plan for Florida State right now with Mike Norvell after that statement that was made? Because I think there is a lot of question marks surrounding this entire fan base, including the program itself. We are going to get into a deep discussion on that, some NFL Noles updates as well, maybe some basketball stuff and some latest there as well. Charlie Ward getting his jersey retired on Sunday, so shout out to our guy Charlie Ward, Hear the Spear alum and FSU legend. Congratulations to him. But with me this evening is Austin Veazey, our lead basketball writer at NoleGameday.com, and then Dustin Lewis, our editor-in-chief. Gentlemen, no game this upcoming weekend, but man, there are a ton of things to talk about nonetheless.
Doesn't feel like a bye week, that's for sure. It's been quite a strange last couple of days, obviously, for Florida State, considering the circumstances. And I'm just really interested to see, with all the noise, the outside pressure that's now apparent on Mike Norvell and on this team, how they're going to respond after this week off coming against Wake Forest on November 1st.
Mm-hmm.
There's never been a more needed bye week. I think to just not think about Florida State football for a weekend is going to do my mental health some good.
Well, it so happens, though, VZ, and you weren't here for this, for our instant reaction to that statement that Michael Alford put out, Florida State's athletic director. We want to get your reaction to that because Dustin and I dove deep into that, trying to figure out what that means and what it could mean for the program. And all three of us later on in this show tonight will try to figure out moving forward what this will look like. But what was your raw reaction to that? Because we haven't spoken to you at all through. We haven't texted about it or anything. We wanted to wait until we got on the show here for you to kind of give your thoughts on it.
Well, first of all, I saw Los got on for that.
He did. Yeah, it was aggravated enough to allow for Carlos Williams to call in and get on the show.
Los,
come on. It was a wild appearance too. Let me say that.
That's Los for you though. Like,
yeah.
I need him to hop back on a show with all three of us because he's so much fun to talk to.
Mm.
But listen, the more I've sat on it, I don't know why the hell they released that statement. If that's the statement you're going to release, just don't say anything. Because all you did was piss Florida State fans off even more. And you can look at it as, hey, maybe Florida State's just trying to be cheap and save themselves about $10 million. I know it's $8 million for Mike and then however much millions the buyout is for all the assistant coaches and everything. Maybe it's more of that Alford's under review too with the whole football program will be reviewed. Or maybe they're just tone deaf. I don't know. But to release that statement in that moment when everyone's expecting him to be fired, if not today, then in 7 weeks. I don't know why you released that statement. It makes absolutely no sense to me. It's a bad business move. It almost signifies that you're a sitting duck for these final 6 games. Or 5 games, I should say, because they're not making a bowl game.
Hey.
Damn. Tough.
Where are they winning 3 more games?
We'll talk about that later. That's going to be in our deep discussion in the latter half of this episode.
So, Dustin even brought up the point in our Discord where he put in Mike's introductory press conference and then his most recent press conference. That is a shell of a man. That is someone who thought he was getting fired this weekend, and yet he's still coaching.
Well, the post-game presser to Stanford certainly looked like it. I mean, you sort of saw it there. It was like a crippling ending there to the Stanford game. It was lasting, and there were so many different chances where maybe Florida State could magically come back, and then you had the camera just continuously going over to Mike Norvell and getting any reaction of anything bad happening to Florida State. And you could see him stressed out. He's going at it with players on the sideline. And, it was just kind of how that game was laid out to where this was it. This is over. Mike Norvell is going all the way across the country, losing to Stanford. And, that should be it for Mike. And I think he knew that or felt like it would happen mentally. We saw Michael Alford there in the pregame talking with Mike Norvell, and Alfred's always traveling. He travels to,
Yeah,
I
I was
think,
about to
every
say.
single football game.
And I've seen him at a lot of road basketball games. He's always traveling.
Yeah, he's hands on with a lot of the programs and is everywhere. But so it was no shocker that he'd be there at this one and speaking with Mike. But of course, ESPN picks that up as well. So you had all those different things, and then you lose that game at the very end. And it should never even be the case that you're having a battle with Stanford in the fourth quarter, or certainly there at the end of a game. That should never be the case if you're Florida State. But it just felt almost like a sad documentary just finally ending right there in Stanford. And that's how he looked after the game, in the post game, for sure.
It felt like the end. I think players and coaches, people within the program, some of them are probably surprised that a move wasn't made this week. And, I will say, even with the statement, it doesn't mean that something is off the table. If the product continues to be what it is, the losses continue to stack up in bad ways for Florida State. Obviously the last two games, a double-digit favorite, and you lose both of those, and you got the Clemson and Florida games. Well, the Florida game's the last one of the season, but the Clemson game coming up, Florida State gets wiped off the table there. It'll be something to watch. I think the people in charge, they definitely want to see the product improve, and if you don't see that, it's time to go ahead and pull the Band-Aid off, which, like I said, I'm surprised they haven't done already.
Mm-hmm. The reaction on social media was out of this world on Monday.
It's especially when you're seeing the comments, like CBS reported, like players were like laughing in the locker room about his response speech again, which we've been making fun of all year, even going back to last year, and just some other reports about people who were kind of just quiet in the locker or in the team meeting when he said he was staying. There wasn't like a real rah-rah kind of thing. Everyone just kind of expected him to be gone, and he's still there.
Mm-hmm. The situation of losing the locker room is what has felt like has been the kryptonite for Mike since felt like last year when you saw the play on the field. No one was trying. Guys were missing tackles and almost just not wanting to be out there on the field and undisciplined play. And you saw that a lot come back against Stanford. And then when you start hearing some reports, and if they're true or not, whatever it is, but that message is just not getting across. I believe they've removed the climb, #the climb on
they did on the
all of their socials.
Well, I know they did on the Wake Forest tweet. I don't know if they've kept removing it since.
But that's just been dead, man. I was kind of shocked that they continued to use that. I understand that you did not reach a national championship. I don't know if Mike would even remove the climb, even if they had won a national championship or made the college football playoff. I don't know how far you've got to climb to be able to end that climb. Maybe it's just a continuous climb. It's a 24/7 climb. That's a rough climb, man. That's a nonstop one. And I think not only the players are probably about over that and the whole response, and we're going to fix this and fix all that, but the fan base is certainly well over that. I mean, you're not going to see a fan wearing the climb and anything of that nature on someone's shirt. I just don't think that's going to be the case.
That's really what's going to be interesting to watch from here. How bought in do the players remain in the program? Because we also saw the report from CBS that there was some joking going on in the locker room. And, I will say Mike Norvell in his press conference yesterday, he didn't think that was necessarily the issue. He thought Florida State continued to fight, continued to have the right mindset and be bought in. But I will say that game against Stanford, you committed a season high 13 penalties. A lot of them were simply mental infractions. And then, when you did try to correct guys when they were coming over the sideline, there were obviously some heated responses from players. And we have heard from Norvell yesterday and from the coordinators a couple of days ago that there have been some very energetic practices this week, and the players are flying around out there. And I will say, we don't get the media, we don't get to be out there at practice, obviously, but I was walking by towards the end, and you could hear them all the way over at the Moore Center from the practice fields, and I was inside the building at that point. So it was pretty loud, and got to wonder if maybe this week off, like the coaches are hoping, is something that can help the Seminoles get back on the right page and then really find something these last 5 games.
Right.
Sure. Well, that's what I'll bring up a few things too whenever we get into that discussion of what is actually Florida State's game plan, because as the days go by after that statement, my mind starts swirling, and I think we're starting to see that across the fan base a little bit of Florida State might be trying to ride through this and could be contemplating 2026 with this head coach. I don't know. We'll see. I want to get thoughts from y'all later on that, but it's a very interesting predicament that Florida State currently is. Mike Norvell, Dustin, you were there on hand. What was that experience like at the press conference with Mike there? Because, we had discussed that on Monday, like, holy smokes, this Wednesday presser is going to be pretty damn awkward and just weird feeling with him being there. And, Michael Alford making that statement. What was the vibe in there to you about with that?
I think that's a perfect way to put it. It was a little bit of an awkward environment because a lot of the media, obviously, since the game on Saturday, have put out their opinions on the situation. And I would say the majority believe that the program should move on from Mike Norvell. And you had the statement come out. And obviously, Mike Norvell is going to have to talk about that and everything that has happened over the last couple of weeks. And, I think he tried to give the answers the best that he could in that situation. But, it's just really tough at this point. And, you even had him be asked directly, how do you beat Alabama and then lose to Stanford? So some tough questions throughout that press conference. Norvell tried to handle it the way that he could. And, we're just going to have to see how this thing continues to feel itself out over the next couple of weeks because it's an ever-changing scenario. I don't think one thing is necessarily locked in.
Mike Norvell talking about Michael Alford's statement. He said that statement wasn't for me because I know every day that I show up, I know that it's going to be, and I know what it's going to look like, but I am grateful for the opportunity to be the head coach here at Florida State, and I'm not going to take that for granted. I'm also not going to sit there and just hinge everything on what messages are. I've got to do, and I got to do my job, and we got to be better at it. We've been hearing that since last year, gentlemen. It's the same thing. The thing is, though, what else? Michael Alford, Florida State's administration, put Mike into this situation to where you are going to have to answer these things, but it is Mike. You are going to hear the same thing over and over again. So that's why I don't think any of us on here are going to really grade Mike Norvell's answers on these because it is going to be the same thing over and over again, and Florida State will have to respond and fix things, and he understands that he is not doing a good job of the Florida State standard he loves and is very grateful for the opportunity that he has as being the head coach at Florida State. So I know fans wanted to see him maybe open up a little bit more and see more transparency. I don't think you're ever going to see that from Mike until he is no longer with Florida State, and I don't know if you'll ever hear it from Mike. I don't know. I think you won't hear it while he's at Florida State ever, unless he's got some kind of national interview going on where you've got like a 60 minutes interview with CBS. I just don't see where that's going to happen in a press conference with Mike at Florida State.
Just tough. What do you really expect him to say at this point? And everyone knows, 6 years in, essentially how Mike Norvell handles his press conferences. And, he's very coach speak, very positive, doesn't like to reveal a lot of things necessarily. So we're in a really tough spot.
We've been making fun of his coach speak for 3 years.
Even when it was going well.
Yeah. It's just something we expected. You're never going to get any kind of valid information, or I shouldn't say valid. You're not going to get any useful information out of him because he's going to stumble and stammer his way around it.
Well, one thing that I did not like from this, though, that I will grade it an F, is Norvell giving comments on the effort that Florida State had against Stanford. He said, I watched our guys. I did not think it was an effort of any effort issue. I thought our guys played, pushed, and competed to try and win. They did some things that were a little bit different, but we've got to be able to trust our rules, techniques. It's in every phase. Thoughts on that one right there, because
they were definitely
he's making it sound like they are facing, an Alabama or a top tier team like Georgia or Ole Miss or something of this magnitude. If you're pleased with the effort of Florida State losing to Stanford, I don't care if you had I mean, they had numerous mistakes. I mean, some of the most mistakes we've seen in Mike Norvell's tenure in that game. So many damn penalties. Discipline was way off. That's effort. Mike, that's effort, buddy. That's that's effort. And that was, if your effort's not the caliber to be able to beat Stanford, you won't be able to beat anybody else for the rest of the season, nor will you beat anybody under your tenure ever.
There were definitely players still trying. Like Tommy about lost his life trying to get in the end zone there. Now there were players like Edwin on defense, and I was about to say a lot of the defense, the effort wasn't really there. I would say the offense definitely showed more heart there, especially at the end. But the defense especially was pretty lackluster effort-wise. Now, they did step up their play there in the second half for the most part. Obviously, they still had the bad offsides from Lions and a couple other things, but effort, it wasn't an F, but it wasn't great.
It was probably the worst that it's been this season.
Yeah,
I would say, because one thing about this team, even in the losses, is that they've continued to fight very hard and display that level of effort out on the field. And there were times where I just didn't feel like that was the case necessarily against Stanford. And then the focus, I mean, was obviously off as well. Mentioned it earlier in the show, but the 13 penalties, and a lot of them just in very frustrating situations and things that simply can't happen. I mean, across the board, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, it was all three phases of the game where you had these penalties that ultimately killed you against Stanford. And, that goes back to what Mike Norvell is saying. I think that the effort level, I kind of disagree with him on that point for this one.
I do. I fully do. That was a bad response from Mike. I can't.
And also
that stuff. Be transparent, man. You can call out your players, man. I think they're now in the NIL game. They're making good money. They're full on adults here. I know it's changed a lot, but you can call out your players. I know he won't ever do that. He's a coach not to do that. I mean, you won't see that from Mike, but at this point though, and where it's headed, I think in order to at least build a little bit of respect here at the end of his tenure, if that is the case, you got to be transparent and just call out what your biggest issues are. And I know it's not going to probably change things on the field for you as much, but it's just that was just a bad response. But
I'm also just like, where are your player leaders at? Because Austin brought it up. Tommy takes, I mean, a brutal and an illegal shot from Stanford, and there wasn't a whole lot of pushback from the offense. I mean, you saw 1, 2, maybe 3 guys go over there and really attest to what happened to Tommy. But
yeah, Richie and Lil Wayne definitely got in the guy's
for
face.
the most part, it was a disappointing reaction. And then the same thing when you're making these mistakes on defense. Where's Daryl Jackson and some of these other guys that have had their voices in the locker room? So, you're having just disappointing results across the entire roster, making these penalties, making these mistakes. And obviously the coaches are doing what they can to get things back on the same page. But I think that they've talked about it in the past. This program is at its best when it's player led, and where those leaders right now when everything's going wrong.
Yeah, I agree. Having leaders there has really helped Mike Norvell excel in these years. You look back at guys, of course, with Jared Verse and Jordan Travis and Trey Benson. You had Jamie Robinson as well, Jermaine Johnson, like people that stood up, Peyton Bethune, who we're going to talk about him later. Kalen Deloach, you can go on, and that 2023 team was fully on, like you were just saying, Dustin, player-led, leader-led. That was all in the locker room there, and that's how that team excelled. I think Mike's pretty pissed off, too, as well, that he just doesn't have that in some regard with some players. He's got it there with Tommy, I think, Deuce Robinson as well. And, we hear some things on the defensive side from a few guys like Juice Cryer, and we've heard things of like Daryl Jackson, but I think there's always been question marks for me personally on Daryl Jackson, if he can really be a leader for you and all that. But holding guys accountable would be nice. And I'm entirely shocked that some of those guys didn't full send it on the dude that nailed Tommy with that nasty shot. I'm shocked by it. Jeremiah, a name that we haven't had to say in a long time, but hey, Jeremiah Byers, he'd be the first one there to probably blow over mother effer. He might not have been the greatest on the field for you, but man, he would have smoked that Stanford guy. I would have seen him flying down there and shit. If it was that 2023 team doing that to J-Trav, shit, you'd see Jared Verse come off the sideline. You'd see a lot of that whole sideline come off. And I think Tommy has earned the respect from this team. And you see that, and a lot of guys checking on him after the game and such. But, you know, it just is what it is. That's kind of what happens, though, when you lose your team with Mike right now, and everybody's almost on their own island at the moment, which really sucks. It's a really crappy situation right now.
And even the sideline altercation between Mike Norvell and Edwin Joseph, you know, I really would have liked to see more of your veterans step in there and try to stop that situation from becoming what it was. And, you know, I saw the video floating around on social media, and to me, it looked like Mekhi Danzy was really the guy in there trying to get between Norvell and Joseph the most. And I mean, that says a lot. You know, he's just going into his second year in the program. And, you know, you brought up Jared Verse and Fabian Lovett and those type of guys. I can remember, you know, countless moments at practice where things were getting heated and they would step in, whether it was another older guy who's getting heated or a younger guy, and they would let them know the standard, whether they have to do it with some choice words or whether they can do it, you know, a little bit more calmly. But leaders have to lead.
Mm-hmm. That was Fabo. We saw that multiple times because I would go over there to the defensive line guys, and Fabian Lovett, you couldn't walk. You couldn't walk around drills or anything. He would hold you accountable. It didn't matter if you're a freshman or if you're at his class, wherever he was in his tenure at FSU. Robert Cooper was another guy like that held his guys accountable. Maurice Smith, too, on the offensive line. I was overhearing him at a practice one day calling out guys that were late to, I believe, one of their meetings, and said, that's just not going to happen again because you're going to screw everybody up, and that's just not how we're going to do things. And it was one of the younger players on the team. And, you know, we don't know, you know, there could be stuff like that potentially happening at these practices, but definitely we don't get that vibe absolutely right now with what you see on Saturdays. We did hear from Gus Malzahn, gentlemen. We did not get an update there on Tommy Castellanos. We also didn't get an update from Mike Norvell on him. I know a lot of fans want to get one there because that was a scary injury. Tommy posted on his Instagram story today and made a post, and actually posted a photo of him and Mike Norvell on a still shot there on his Instagram story. So, you know, I think he's still pushing as much as he can for Mike Norvell and giving support there, but we won't know his status until likely, I would imagine, Monday, when we will hear from Mike next. D-Lo?
Yeah, I would assume that we're going to get an update on Tommy whenever Mike Norvell has his weekly press conference on Monday to kick off things as they move towards Stanford. You know, with the bye week, the availability a little bit different this week, but I don't have any doubt that Tommy Castellanos is one of those guys who still bought in with this program, fighting for Mike Norvell. And I think this is, you know, a pretty emotional time for him as well. You know, you think back to the comments that he made before the season that went viral, and, you know, he was able to cash in on those with his performance against Alabama. But one thing he said in that interview, you know, is he came to Florida State and, you know, he knew that he was fighting for coaches' jobs, and those jobs are on the line right now. And it really depends, you know, I would say some of it on how Florida State finishes these last 5 games.
Yeah, I think him posting that thing with Mike, it's almost sending a message to the rest of the roster as well. You know, if there are players that aren't don't want to play for Mike right now, or don't have that mentality and aren't bought in anymore, you know, QB1, your top guy on this team, your biggest leader on the roster, you know, he posts a picture of his head coach there and puts on the story. You know, I think he's trying to relay a message for the rest of this roster. And like you were just saying, they're going into a bye week. We'll talk a little bit more about, you know, maybe the direction of this team for the rest of the year. Gus Malzahn, he was asked, you know, do you give him any help and advice to Mike Norvell going through all of this, going off of his past coaching career? And he said, no, I mean, I'm the offensive coordinator. I'm focused on that. I'm the offensive coordinator. I've got a job. I'm focused on making us the best offense possible and trying to help us win. That's really the only thing that's going on my mind right now. So not sitting down. Who knows? probably maybe doing some stuff on the on the back end internally, I would imagine. But the most, the one that was talked about the most this week was Tony White, and I thought, emotional presser there, animated as well, really pulling for his guys. He had mentioned, outside noise and listening to social media, and also him to, getting messages and mentions and getting some threats sent to him as well, which is just absolutely disgusting and ridiculous. And that's a whole nother silly thing that, makes no sense. It's sports at the end of the day. It's football. But this is what Tony White had to say about that, because it is, it affects his players as well. He said, "You get that all the time, bro. That's real. Whoever it is, death threats, the worst DC in the country, take you and your family. That's just part of social media, right? The vitriol that's out there. And again, that's what you sign up for in this profession, but that's not why I do it. I like writing good stories about guys." Pretty crazy stuff there that he had mentioned regarding, all that stuff on social media and people going after him. He also, mentioned the heated episode on the sideline with Edwin Joseph that went down. Here's what he had to say. He said he knew what he had done. Like, he had to put it back in his mind. You got to remember, he jumped offside and then he gave up the damn touchdown. So guys, everybody in the world, however many millions of people were watching, he gave up the touchdown. So he was gathering himself up, and then Coach Norvell went over there and said, "Yo, like, what the hell are you doing?" It was emotions on the sideline, which is competition, all that kind of stuff, but sat down, told Ed, like, "Bro, you can't do that kind of stuff." And when he calmed down, it was like, "Bro, like, you can't act like that." So conversations were had, and it was like, you've got to be right. You've got to be right in there. He went back, stayed composed, and helped make numerous plays that helped give us a chance to win the game. So yeah, he had a lot to answer on this last Tuesday during the pressers there, but a handful of things. And I thought it was a pretty emotional one from Tony White here. And you can kind of tell, he's not been here a long time, but he's fully invested into his players here. And he feels like there's chances to certainly flip it. It's just not happening yet. And they're dealing with a lot of just outside noise at the moment.
Yeah, Tony White, I mean, still confident Florida State can get this thing going back in the right direction, Jesus. And, he even talked about that method that we've discussed before from Bobby Bowden, lose big, lose small, win big, and said Florida State is in that process. But obviously that's not what fans want to hear, because, it's Tony White's first season in Tallahassee, but it's year 6 for Mike Norvell. And no one wants to see another rebuild after how 2022 and 2023 went, and then the major drop off last year and how it's been trending the last couple of games for Florida State. And I understand the criticism is piling up, but I think that we do have to understand as well, like, these are coaches and players, they're people as well. They have families, and some of the stuff that is being said is not right. And I think there's a way to say that you're unhappy with someone's performance, the way that they're doing their job, without it getting to the level that Tony White mentioned, where it's death threats and you're saying things about people's family. Like, at the end of the day, it's football. And I think we can all be unhappy with the product on the field without stooping to that level.
It's just crazy. To me, it's not even worth addressing because of how crazy it is. But that's sadly the state of college football, especially in the South, with a lot of these bigger programs where fans get way too toxic. And I shouldn't say it is what it is, because people just need to get over themselves and realize it's just a game. But they're always going to take it a little too seriously.
Mm-hmm. I might get mad at some Steelers games. Might get mad at some players, might get mad at my offensive coordinator that I've definitely get mad at a lot in the last 5-6 years. But I don't make any kind of tweets. Now, I did tweet Sean Payton once. But not a threat of any kind. I just said that you better start Jameis Winston when he was at the Saints. And yeah, Sean Payton
sounds like a threat.
I didn't say what I would do. I didn't say what I would do, but you better do it. You better do it. And it was fun, but I got blocked. I did just find out, though, that Sean Payton did unblock me. So, which is, we're heading in a better direction there on that end. But yeah, I get mad and stuff, but yeah, no, it never needs to go that far whatsoever. I thought, given the details on the Edwin Joseph stuff is interesting. And, there's some things that you got to get back on and be disciplined, because if Florida State really cleaned up some things in that game, yeah, you should be able to come away with the win with how badly you played in the offensive play. Couldn't really get too much going there. And it was just a clunky mess. And, Tommy Castellanos feels like he's been injured since that Kent State game. So it's been very limited on the offensive side for what Gus Malzahn probably wants to do.
Limited?
I don't know. I just made that up. Let me know if that's a real
Force
word.
it,
I have
man.
zero clue.
I don't know. Stabilize. What did you say? I forgot what you just said.
Stabilize.
Limited. I definitely made that up because I was trying to just end the sentence, but I
Stabilize.
No clue, to be honest with you. But yeah, that offense has been limited since Tommy's been hurt. But yeah, we'll talk more a little bit about it, and like moving forward, what this could do with getting some guys healthy throughout the rest of the season, and FSU's game plan moving forward with that. But we do have some picks to make, gentlemen. We do have some picks. We've got Thursday night football. We don't usually go live on Thursday nights, so we've got another live game, and it's time to get back in the win column. Shout out to our friends at Sleeper. We got so close last week. Let's go and look at it. Baker Mayfield. We just needed one more passing touch. Out of nowhere, Baker Mayfield playing at an MVP caliber rate, and then boom, just falls apart. Can't hit anybody. Can't hit wide open guys, but he doesn't get 2 touchdowns. Bijan Robinson got so close to 100 plus rushing and receiving yards, and then Drake Mace 221 out of 235 that we were expecting. Tough scenes. It happens. It is what it is. What can you do? But we're about to win tonight and make some picks. Jordan Addison right here. This is
the easiest more of the season.
All right, easiest more. You heard it from VZ himself right there. Vikings fan, you should be able to give us some good insight into this game.
He's been playing unbelievable football since he returned from that 3-game suspension. He's obviously he has Justin Jefferson on the other side of him, but he's the only receiver that Carson Wentz has found any kind of chemistry with.
I like that. Do y'all want to go into an alt here? And I like Ladd McConkey at 40 plus. I don't know about you guys, but he's been a go-to guy for Herbert.
I don't hate it.
It looks like, we can check a lot of people riding with that. It's hot one right now. Stats. It just seems like a steal. Had some good yards against Indianapolis Colts, who have played very well this season. And maybe go a little Ladd McConkey, 40 plus. That's all we would need. We just need one more pick, though, D-Lou. Are you feeling anything on here? We got Aaron Jones coming back. How do you feel? VZ, what's the latest on him? Because is he going to get a lot of burn, or is
I think Mason's RB1 still.
Do we go Mason 40 plus? We just got to get in the win column.
Well, here's the thing. The Vikings are missing their starting right tackle, Brian O'Neill. He's out for this game. And their left tackle, Christian Darrisaw, is probably on a pitch count as he's still recovering from his torn ACL. He did play in full last Sunday against the Eagles, but with such a quick recovery time, they've probably got him on a pitch count tonight. So you're probably playing with both tackles here, or both backup tackles here at some point tonight. So I don't know if that bodes well for the rushing attack.
Shit, and too, it could affect as well the passing game.
Herbert's been slinging that thing recently.
Yeah, we could go over here and just get him to shave him to 200 plus. That feels like that should be a lock beyond belief, right?
Yeah, let's just do that one.
Yeah, make things safe. Get in the win column. Maybe we break off that streak because, to be honest with you, we have not won since week 1 of our sleeper in September. So this would actually, I feel like, get us back into that win column. What do we want to do? I think we do a 10 for 20.
Oh boy.
I think we do a 10 for 20 there.
Now we're guaranteed to lose.
Yep. I think we got to do 10 for 20 because we get 5 for 10, but 10 for 20.
Or you just lose it all. So
now you want to do 77.80? I think we do it right there. $10. Jordan Addison, we got to get 49 receiving yards from him. We got more on the 200 plus passing yards for Justin Herbert. And then Ladd McConkey, we need 40+ receiving for him. So shout out to Sleeper, as always, hooking up you guys. If you guys want to, use the code down below, NOLES, Noles, 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Awesome. We're going to get back in that win column. I'm ready for it. Gentlemen, we got to talk about some NFL Noles, which have been absolutely crushing it all across the board. It feels like week in and week out. Absolute monsters. I think we got to start with Tatum Bethune, man.
Got to.
He stepped in big time for Fred Warner. He actually stepped in during that Bucks game. I was like, who in the world is 40? Whoa, that's Tatum Bethune on the field. And one thing about the 49ers is they always excel in developing linebackers. They're the best in the league at doing so. But against Atlanta in prime time, 10 total tackles, 4 solo tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and got a lot of love on national television, which was awesome.
I expected Dustin to say something. First of all, those jerseys are amazing. I love the 49ers throwback uniforms.
Yeah.
But it's great to see him out there with Nardo at corner and just holding it down.
Yeah, Renardo's had a solid season too so far. Jalen Ramsey for my Steelers. We lost to the Bengals. Don't want to talk about a new week.
I don't know if we need to mention Jalen Ramsey for that game.
Yeah, they got the stat line up there. It was a rough game. Let's just be honest there. But 6 total tackles, 3 solo tackles, 1 pass break. But Ryan Fitzgerald, we'll move on from that one really quickly. Jalen Ramsey's had a great season though outside of that. But we move on. Ryan Fitzgerald, 2 of 2. He had a 30-yard long field goal, 7 total points on the day for Fitzgerald against the New York Jets. They came away with a win. Braden Fisk and some stuff there. He had a PBU, probably there a tip ball at the line. Jared Verse keeps flying around. 2 quarterback hits, 1 sack, 2 total tackles against Jacksonville, getting the Rams a win there. Some Jets guys.
And I will say real quick with that Rams game, there was a little jersey swap with Verse and Jerry and Jones after the game.
I did see that photo. That was pretty dope to see those guys back together after the game. AZ getting some more burn there with the Jets. 3 total tackles, 1 pass breakup, and then Jermaine Johnson, 3 total tackles, 2 solo tackles, and then 1 quarterback hit. And then Derwin James and Brian Burns.
Not looking forward to facing Derwin tonight.
Yeah, good luck with that, man. He played against the Colts, who are having a great season, but couldn't come away with the win. 7 total tackles, 3 solo tackles, and 2 quarterback hits. And then Brian Burns is Brian Burns. 2 sacks.
Who was not happy after the game. I don't know if y'all saw that clip. He was upset.
He seemed pretty pissed off. He was not happy. He was leaving through the tunnel and was saying some things and pretty pissed off. And it was hilarious because he was walking right next to Russell Wilson,
who also had some stuff to say after the game. Granted, it was Sean Payton, but you don't see that often from Russ.
No, Russ is.
Oh, that was a meltdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Russ was probably walking next to Brian Burns, like, shh, don't say so many cuss words like that. You can only use like 2 or 3 a day. Come on. Brian Burns, 4 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 1 pass breakup. And to be honest with you, he's just been going from a bad team to another bad team. And he is a Super Bowl caliber winning like edge rusher in the league. He's that damn good. I would wish that someone would actually trade for him that have a chance to make a run in the playoffs. Hint, hint, maybe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Hassan Reddick going down with a knee and ankle injury right now. But can you imagine Brian Burns with Yaya Diaby on the other side?
No,
that
I
would
cannot.
be incredible. Do what?
I cannot. So no.
You just don't want that to happen, do you?
I just don't envision that happening. That's all.
I'm
already one signed Brian Burns jersey behind. Like I've got a signed Panthers jersey. I haven't gotten a Giants one yet. I don't want to have to catch up again.
Yeah, it'd be fun. It'd be fun down here in Tampa. It'd be fun. I don't see Jason Light doing that, but the Bucks, if they feel like they have the chance, which I do think they do. Yeah, Baker had a bad game, is what it is, and they're dealing with some injuries. But after this next bye week, they're going to get fully healthy for the most part, outside of course, Mike Evans and maybe Jalen McMillan. But get Luke Geddick back, Bucky Irving as well, and get Emeka fully healthy as well, dealing with that hamstring injury. It's a good team. It's a good team. They still got to clean up some things in the linebacker room, but Brian Burns, they need an edge rusher because I don't think they feel too good about Chris Braswell stepping in to take on that same kind of pressure of Hassan Reddick that he's been bringing the last few weeks. Gentlemen, let's jump into a discussion here, and I've got a few questions for y'all. But to be honest with you, it's point blank I'll bring up right now is what the hell is Florida State's plan moving forward? What is this plan? Because it's given us a couple days after the statement we've heard from Mike, and we're going to get too much from him, but it's allowed us to sit back, think on some things, and really try to understand maybe what Florida State's game plan is moving forward. Dustin, have you thought any different than what you and I were talking about on Monday and everything? Like, we were contemplating, okay, maybe this gives you cushion time to where you could make a move after the bye week, and then you move on from Mike, and that it seems like that's kind of just out of the window now to me mentally, and it's kind of like they're going to ride with him throughout the rest of this season, kind of almost, in my opinion, no matter what, wins or loss.
Well, I definitely, like I said earlier, I think it's going to depend on how the product looks the next couple of weeks. If the losses continue to pile up and they look like they've looked recently, it's going to be very hard for Florida State to continue justifying to keep Mike Norvell as head coach. I think, it's already hard to justify that with the way things are going at the moment. So, I mean, I really see it as two paths for Florida State. You put this statement out now, you give your public stance on it, but behind the scenes, I mean, I have to imagine that this administration is preparing options, for if the next couple of weeks do not go the way that they want them to, and they ultimately do have to fire Mike Norvell and, bring in another head coach and a new staff. So I'm sure they're getting their options together behind the scenes. And, I'm also wondering just how much of a factor is the money. I mean, it's an absolute ton of money, obviously, that Florida State would have to spend not only on the buyout for Mike Norvell, but to buy out the rest of the coaches, to bring in a new head coach and everyone he wants to bring in, the investments that you'd have to make in your roster. And, is Florida State willing and able to do that at this point when they've put so much money into Doak Campbell Stadium and the football-only facility, and obviously the contracts for everyone at Florida State at the moment? It's just a really tough situation because it's not even, you look over in Gainesville and they're talking about Billy Napier's buyout and it's $21 million, give or take. And then Mike Norvell's is closer to that $59 million mark, just him alone. It's a large figure.
It'd be the second largest buyout in college football history behind Jimbo, ironically enough. It's a lot of money to throw out there, especially when they literally just got done paying the Taggart buyout last year. You're just now getting free of that. And now you're going to, obviously you don't have to do it all at once, but it does take 6, 7, 8 years to get out from under that. And it gets a lot of money, especially when you factor in the rest of the staff's buyouts, which, some guys could be retained, like Pat Surtain or some of these other guys, they could be retained. But you're still going to buy out most of that staff. You have to buy out the staff from whoever you're getting them from the other school or team, which unless they hire someone that's already been fired before, but it's a lot of money. And I think if the season goes the way we expect it to the rest of this way, I don't see another way Mike gets another season, because there's not 3 more winnable games. Just looking at the schedule right now to make a bowl game, I don't see 3 more wins. And not making a bowl game for the 4th time in 6 years is alarming.
It is alarming. I mean, look at this. I mean, who do you think got Wake Forest at home? That fan base is going to be pretty rabid to whoever's in Doak going after. I don't know if you can go after Mike anymore. They'll sure won't, be cheering there whenever his name's announced on the board. But I feel like they'd be more.
If there's even people in the stands.
Yeah. And then you go on the road in Death Valley at Clemson, which, Dabo Swinney, no matter what the season that they're having right now, that is always circled on his calendar of going after Mike and trying to get that win. It's not an easy place to play as well, and they kind of have nothing else to lose in this season moving forward. And you got Virginia Tech at home, and then you've got NC State on the road Friday night. Yippee doodah! At least it's not 10:30, but still is a Friday night game that the Seminoles have to play in Raleigh. Never the most fun, I'll be honest.
Never had luck.
Never
there.
has.
Just never had luck there.
Yep. And then you've got at the Gators at the end of the season with the interim head coach. It'll be very interesting to see how they are able to find some fight here with, Billy Napier not being on the squad moving forward. I'm putting this out here just like in a different world, another world, and this is not my personal beliefs and thinking on this, but I got to ask you guys, if Florida State does win out, let's say that wins out, it's crazy thought. All three of us here don't believe that's going to happen, and they go 8-4. That means too they would reach a bowl game. You win a bowl game, and Florida State's 9-4 at the end of the season.
Oh, he'd get another year for sure.
Think Florida State gives him another year?
Without a doubt. Like, no question in my mind. Though doubt that's in my mind, he's not winning 6 straight games. He's just not. The way this team's look, he's not winning 6 straight games. I don't know if they win 2 more games. Because we all thought the Stanford game was a win. Like, no doubt in our minds. And we even said Florida State is not playing well, but Stanford is so bad that they cannot lose the game. And they lost the game.
Like, they did. It's very unlikely that Florida State would win 6 straight games. And right now, it's just hard for me to pick them to win one away from home because, the 2 times that we've seen this team go on the road so far, Virginia and Stanford, they've looked, way different than they do in Doak Campbell Stadium. All the mistakes that we saw against Stanford, the turnovers that added up against Virginia, and what really that game began your defensive woes. Ever since then, you really haven't been able to respond consistently on that side of the ball whatsoever. Being out of Tallahassee, it's been a disaster for FSU.
Yeah, no, it has. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. I already had where Florida there at the end, Clemson at NC State. Those are with how this team is playing. Certainly too with how they were playing against Stanford. It's very nerve-wracking because that team just didn't look like they wanted to be out there. Yes, there were a few players, yada, 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 but you got to have your entire team under that same mentality of fight and go out there and make plays and stay disciplined, and that was completely lost. Now they're going to be hoping that you get, Tommy Castellanos back fully healthy, and you get a handful of other guys across the board fully healthy as well. We might see Caleb Lavale come in as well in the linebacker room, which the staff feels very highly on. What do you say?
I said Caleb
Lavale.
That's what you just said.
I did. Getting Micah Pettis back fully healthy as well. I know he played in that Stanford game, but you could use definitely a bye week to get guys healthy. That's what Gus Malzahn talked about as well. So they are vying on this team to hopefully be able to fix just exactly what Mike Norvell said in his presser, to come back and rebound and hopefully go throughout the rest of the season and try to get as many wins as possible. But it would not shock me though if, like I said, none of us on here believe this will happen, but if Florida State were to win out, that this head coach, Mike Norvell, would be retained and go into 2026 because of the money, the financials of everything. And to be honest with you, with that statement made by Michael Alford that they had put out, as we continue to move forward this season, our comprehensive assessment of the football program will be completed at season's end. Meanwhile, we are fully committed to helping Coach Norvell in the 2025 Seminoles strongly rebound in the coming weeks. And as you try to figure out what that fully means, if you put it at the season's end, D-Lou, that gets really interesting because recruiting plays such a high factor in everything. If you're going to wait that long, you're putting yourself in a very, very, very rough spot. Not only is the entire college football landscape, a lot of these programs looking for new coaches, so you start losing out on opportunities of going after whoever that might be, but also too, whoever you do end up getting, you have a very small and short margin to be able to fix some recruiting issues that you're most likely are going to have when you're moving on from a head coach, which then creates domino effect below with your staff.
It's maddening. I mean, FSU, they put themselves in this boat with that statement, because now the future of Mike Norvell is clearly in question, and something that the program has publicly said will be evaluated rather than just, fans feeling that way. That's something that's on the table. And if you do wait until the end of the season and fire Mike, I mean, like you said, Logan, you're right up there against the early signing period. Frankly, I'm a little surprised that Florida State hasn't had any recruits back off of their commitments already, because you've given other programs a ton of ammunition to go after these guys and be like, well, look, I mean, your own athletic program is saying that they got to evaluate your coach. He might not even be there next year. And Florida State, they've got some really talented guys in the boat. And you have seen a couple actually reaffirm their commitments to Florida State, which, I mean, is obviously positive for the Seminoles at this time, but it does create a lot of questions. And we're going to have to see how the next couple of weeks continue to unfold. Obviously, Florida State over the years, I mean, we've seen them lose some highly rated recruits right there at the early signing period. And I mean, that could potentially be on the table again if this scenario continues to go how it is. And yeah, I mean, you're not going to have your pick of the coaching candidates if you wait that long. And then, the transfer portal, it's just one window now there in early January, and you've really got to take advantage of it right there in that only window now. So a lot of things on the table for Florida State, a lot of decisions have to be made. And, we'll see if it actually does last until the end of the year for FSU to make that decision one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. We will see. Anything basketball related? I know baseball just got a contract thing figured out there with Link Jarrett, so he's going to be sticking around, which is a good thing, because I know Tennessee lost their head coach to my San Francisco Giants. But anything basketball related? Because I know we got some stuff coming up this weekend.
Yeah, they're playing FAMU on Sunday, who's now coached by Charlie Ward. Believe this is the first time FAMU and Florida State have played since the 90s, and those fights broke out. So that'll be interesting. But when you have a guy like Charlie Ward running FAMU and Luke Laux, who loves Florida State through and through, not worried about any of those issues right now. But they're retiring Charlie Ward's jersey, which I think is awesome and long overdue. I will say I am expecting the game to be streamed. They haven't announced it yet, but someone told me today they are going to try and work a stream for that game, which would be awesome, because we haven't gotten streams in the past. We got one for the Alabama game, and now we might get it for this game as well. There's definitely excitement around that program again after the offensive performance they put up against Alabama. We'll see if they can keep that going this weekend. They even did a joint press conference, Laux and Charlie Ward this week. Laux is wearing a Charlie Ward t-shirt. It's one of my favorite t-shirts that's out there on the market. I believe Home Field is the one that has that. They're also giving away free towels of like Charlie's jersey. That looks pretty cool. So excited for that. Honestly, it's going to be excited about a Florida State offense again.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a really fun moment, to see Charlie Ward get that recognition. And, he'll be one of the few former college athletes, I guess, to have their jerseys retired in multiple sports, already being retired in football. It's a very short list. I know some people were trying to go over it the other day. One of the names on that list is actually Jackie Robinson. I'm trying to remember some of the others. It's very short.
Well, damn. Yeah, we'll keep a close eye on that one. VZ will have all kinds of coverage for you guys at NoleGameday.com. Make sure you check out his Twitter too, as well, giving you updates all throughout. But yeah, that offense, I know we only got one good look at it, but if they can clean up some things defensively, then we'll see. I think it's going to be a fun team to watch nonetheless throughout the season. I don't know how many games they will win, but it is going to be entertaining, and I think the future is pretty bright looking in. But I think that's going to do it for this week's show of Hear the Spear. We won't have an episode, of course, this upcoming weekend of the instant reaction from a game. Florida State's on a bye, but we will get you guys ready next Monday. D-Lou and I will go live, and we will talk from Mike Norvell's presser and then kind of look ahead at Florida State's 7:30 kickoff against Wake Forest in Doak Campbell Stadium. That's going to do it for us. Before you leave here, if you're on YouTube, smack the like button down below. We appreciate it. And also, too, consider hitting the subscribe button. We've seen a lot of growth there, new subscribers over the last couple of weeks. We appreciate y'all. Enjoy the rest of y'all's week and weekend, and we will see you Monday at 12:30. Peace.